What if I told you that the greatest secret to peace, power, and purpose has nothing to do with controlling the world around you, but everything to do with mastering the world within you? Think about it. The world is louder than it's ever been. Everyone is chasing something: validation, comfort, attention, control. But in that endless noise, most people have forgotten how to be still, how to be centered, how to live in alignment with truth. The Stoics never forgot. 2,000 years ago, they discovered what we're still searching for today: how to stay calm in chaos, how to stay strong in suffering, how to stay free in a world that constantly tries to own your mind. Scene transition. Visuals of ancient Rome. Marcus Aurelius, writing by candlelight. Epictetus teaching. Seneca, meditating. These men, emperors, slaves, philosophers, lived through plagues, wars, betrayal, and loss. And yet, they found something we still crave today: unshakable peace. They didn't find it by changing their circumstances. They found it by changing themselves. Marcus Aurelius ruled the most powerful empire in the world and still wrote each morning, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Epictetus was born a slave, yet he taught, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Seneca was surrounded by wealth and politics, yet warned, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Different lives, same truth. Real strength begins within. Cut to narrator walking through modern streets. Phones buzzing, traffic roaring, people rushing. We live in a different time, but we face the same battles: distraction, anger, fear, attachment, ego. Our enemies no longer wear armor, they live in our thoughts. And the war we fight every day is an internal one. That's why Stoicism still matters. Because it isn't just ancient philosophy, it's timeless psychology. A way of training your mind to stay calm when the world burns, to stay kind when others are cruel, to stay grounded when everything is uncertain. Scene. Narrator speaking directly to the camera, steady and clear. This video, this journey, isn't about abstract ideas. It's about transformation. 13 lessons, 13 timeless truths from the greatest minds in Stoic history, each one a weapon forged not in comfort, but in fire. These are not rules to memorize. They're disciplines to live. Because Stoicism isn't something you believe in. It's something you become. Scene softens. Visuals. Early morning meditation. Slow breathing. Journaling by candlelight. You'll learn how to control your mind, how to stop wasting energy on what you can't control, how to rise after betrayal, how to stay unbroken when life tries to break you, how to live in harmony with nature and with yourself. These are not lessons for the weak. They are for those ready to face themselves. Because the hardest battle is not with others. It's with your own emotions, your own reactions, your own ego. Scene. Thunder in the distance. Visuals of soldiers training, boxers sweating, waves crashing. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing." Why? Because life will grab you, push you, and test your balance every single day. You don't need life to be easy. You need to be strong. The Stoics called this training the mind, a daily discipline of awareness, gratitude, courage, and control. They practiced hardship on purpose. They accepted failure without despair. They faced death without fear. They didn't wait for peace to appear. They built it inside themselves. Scene transition. Narrator and quiet reflection. Warm golden light. So what is this path we're about to walk together? It begins with acceptance. Understanding that the world will never bend to your will. That true freedom begins the moment you stop trying to control the uncontrollable. Then comes discipline. The power to govern your own reactions, to respond instead of react, to stay calm when others lose their minds. Next is virtue, the commitment to live with wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control. The four pillars that hold the Stoic soul upright. And finally, there is remembrance. Memento mori, the truth that your time is limited and that your greatest mistake is assuming you have more of it. Scene. Quick montage of the 13 lessons, flashing in subtle images. You'll learn how to Accept what you cannot change. Master your reactions. Live by virtue, not vanity. Treat adversity as training. Focus only on what's in your control. Guard your time fiercely. Discipline your mind. Practice voluntary discomfort. Build inner strength through silence. Protect your peace from manipulation. Reclaim your power from toxic influence. Live according to nature's flow. And remember, you will die. So live completely. Scene. Narrator speaking softly but powerfully. These 13 Stoic rules aren't commandments. They are mirrors. Each one reflects who you are and who you could become. And if you take them seriously, they will change how you see everything, from pain to people. Because once you master your inner world, the outer world can no longer shake you. Scene. Silence for a beat. Here's the truth no one wants to face. You can have everything and still feel empty. You can appear successful and still be lost. You can look strong and still be weak inside. That's why this matters. Stoicism is not about pretending to be unbothered. It's about becoming unbreakable. Not through denial, but through discipline. It's about living deliberately, loving deeply, acting justly, and letting go of everything that isn't yours to control. Scene. Narrator standing before sunrise, voice calm but full of conviction. So before we begin these 13 lessons, pause, breathe, and remember this. You cannot control the world, but you can control your mind. You cannot choose what happens, but you can choose who you become because of it. And in that choice lies all your power. This is not just philosophy. This is a way of life, a path to unshakable peace in a chaotic world. This is the Stoic path. Now, let's begin. There's a simple truth that could change your entire life. You have power over your mind, not over events outside your control. That's it. That's the foundation of Stoic philosophy. And yet, it's the lesson most people struggle to live by. Every day, we argue with the weather. We curse traffic. We replay old betrayals. We wish people were different. But here's the harsh truth. It's not the events themselves that cause our suffering. It's our refusal to accept them. Cut to a shot of a car stuck in traffic. The camera pans from angry drivers honking to one person quietly breathing and smiling inside their car. When you resist what already is, you create tension inside yourself. You waste energy trying to move mountains that were never meant to move. The Stoics understood this deeply. They taught that peace doesn't come from controlling life. It comes from understanding the line between what you can and cannot control. Think of it this way. On one side of that line are things within your power, your thoughts, your choices, your actions. On the other side are things completely outside it, other people's behavior, fortune, accidents, aging, death. And here's the mistake almost everyone makes. We live on the wrong side of that line. We obsess over what others think. We get angry at the past. We try to control outcomes that were never ours to begin with. Visual, divide screen, left side labeled within my control, right side beyond my control. Simple icons animate to show the difference. The Stoic path is about stepping back across that line, reclaiming your energy from what doesn't belong to you and investing it where it does. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, lived surrounded by war, plague, and betrayal. And yet, his journal wasn't filled with rage or revenge. He wrote words that sound almost impossible for a man in his position. If you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your own judgment of them. In those words lies freedom. Because once you see that it's not the event, it's your interpretation, you realize you hold the key to peace. Scene transition. Narrator walking calmly in nature. Wind rustling. Imagine this in your own life. You're stuck in traffic. You feel your blood pressure rise. But does your anger move the cars any faster? Your flight gets canceled. You shout at the sky, does the weather care? A friend betrays you. You replay every word, every detail. Of course not. Anger, frustration, resentment, they don't change reality. They only drain you. Acceptance is not weakness. It's clarity. It's the moment you stop scattering your energy in 1,000 directions and start channeling it inward toward discipline, virtue, and strength. Cut to quiet visual of a person sitting on a bench, breathing deeply as the world rushes by. Epictetus, born into slavery, had every reason to live in bitterness. His master broke his body, leaving him crippled for life. But he refused to let the outer world imprison his mind. He taught his students that the first task of a philosopher is to draw a clear line between what is in our power and what is not. He said, "If you confuse the two, you guarantee misery. If you see the line clearly, you unlock freedom." Now, think of how this plays out in modern life. Your phone buzzes with bad news. Your boss snaps at you. Your plans fall apart. In that split second, you have a choice. You can react blindly, or you can pause and remember this is not mine to control. That pause is everything. It's the difference between being ruled by chaos and being anchored in calm. Music shifts to a softer, hopeful tone. When you practice acceptance, you don't become passive. You become powerful. Because you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, and you master the one thing that truly belongs to you yourself. Your peace no longer depends on outcomes. It depends on perspective. And ironically, when you stop fighting the storm, you often find yourself steering through it more skillfully. Because clarity sharpens action, calm creates focus, and focus builds strength. Think of a calm person in a crisis, the one who speaks gently while everyone else panics. Their power doesn't come from controlling the storm. It comes from refusing to let the storm control them. That's Stoic mastery. That's what Marcus Aurelius practiced every single day. So ask yourself, how much of your suffering comes not from what happened, but from your fight against what happened? How much energy have you wasted wishing reality were different? Imagine what would happen if you redirected that energy inward toward patience, discipline, or forgiveness. Imagine the peace you'd feel if you could finally say, "This is not mine to control, I release it." Pause. Music fades almost silent. In that moment, you step into freedom. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You stopped resisting what is and started aligning with what's real. This lesson, accepting what you cannot control, is both the simplest and the hardest. Simple because the line is clear. Hard because our hearts still want to hold on. But remember this, the storms of life do not ask for your permission. They will come and go whether you resist or not. Your choice is whether to drown in resistance or to rise through acceptance. So when life tests you, pause, take a breath, ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is no, let it go. If the answer is yes, act with reason and virtue. Because when you focus your energy on what's truly yours to shape, everything else begins to fall into place. Closing scene. Narrator turns toward camera, calm but firm. Accept what you cannot control, and watch how peace, like a quiet tide, returns to your life. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And he was right. Most of our pain doesn't come from what happens, it comes from how we react to it. Think about it. A stranger insults you. A coworker ignores your effort. Plans fall apart. People disappoint you. And the smallest inconvenience can ruin your entire day. But is it really the event that destroys your peace, or the story you tell yourself about it? Because every event is neutral until your mind gives it meaning. Cut to visual metaphor. Waves crashing on a rock. The rock doesn't move. The Stoics believe that our true battlefield isn't out there, it's inside. You cannot control every storm life sends your way, but you can control how you stand in the rain. That's what it means to master your reactions. To remain steady when others fall apart. To respond with reason, not emotion. To choose clarity over chaos. Scene transition. Narrator walking through a quiet park. Imagine life as a play, a stage full of actors, props, and scenes beyond your control. You don't write the script. You don't choose your fellow actors. You don't decide when the curtain falls. But you do have one sacred responsibility: to play your role well. That's the Stoic metaphor. You can't control the story, but you can control your performance, your reason, your virtue, your composure. So when someone insults you, it's just another actor delivering their line. You don't have to take it personally. You don't have to step out of character and react with rage. You can pause, breathe, and stay true to the role you've chosen, a person of calm strength. Cut to example scene. Modern workplace. Someone receives a rude email. Let's make it real. You open your inbox and see a harsh, unfair message from a coworker. Your heart starts to race. You feel anger rising, ready to type a fiery reply. At that moment, you stand at a crossroads. One path is reaction, fast, emotional, impulsive. The other path is mastery, pause, breathe, and choose your response. That short pause is everything. It's not weakness. It's wisdom. It's the moment where emotion gives way to reason. Because reacting instantly might feel good for a second, but it can destroy your peace for days. Responding deliberately protects your dignity and keeps your integrity intact. Music shifts to a soft piano melody. The Stoics never said we should suppress emotion. They weren't robots. They knew anger, sadness, fear, all of it. But they believed in this. Feel everything. Act on nothing until reason returns. You can feel the fire and still not let it burn you. Epictetus compared life to a play because he understood something timeless. When you let others dictate your reactions, you give them control over your inner world. But when you pause, observe, and respond with intention, you reclaim that control. No one can make you angry without your permission. No one can steal your peace unless you hand it over. That's inner freedom, the kind that no one can take away. Scene transition. Narrator sitting in a cafe. Reflective tone. Ask yourself, how many times have you let small moments ruin your day? A driver cuts you off, and for the next hour, you replay it in your head. A friend forgets to text back, and suddenly you feel invisible. A colleague criticizes you, and your self-worth begins to shake. Each time that happens, it's not the event controlling you, it's your own mind. The story you tell yourself becomes the real problem. What if instead, you told a different story? What if you said, they must be having a bad day? Or, this moment doesn't define me. Or even, this is my chance to practice patience. Every irritation becomes training. Every insult becomes an exercise in composure. Every challenge becomes your practice ground for self-mastery. Visual. A boxer training alone, then a calm face amid chaos. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, faced conspiracies, betrayal, even the collapse of his armies. Yet his writings never sound panicked or bitter. He trained his mind daily with one principle. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That's what we forget. The world doesn't decide our peace. We do. Music grows slightly stronger, hopeful. So how do you practice mastering your reactions in daily life? Start simple. When you feel anger rising, pause. When frustration hits, when someone tests your patience, smile inwardly. And remember, this is my training. You're not avoiding the world, you're mastering yourself within it. You're not being passive, you're being powerful in silence. Each moment you choose calm over chaos, you build an invisible muscle. And over time, that muscle becomes strength, the kind that nothing can shake. Scene. Narrator, looking directly at the camera. Think about the people you admire most. They're not the ones who lose their temper or panic under pressure. They're the ones who stay composed when everything else is falling apart. That's real power. That's Stoic power. It's not about being emotionless, it's about being unbreakable. Because when you master your reaction, you master yourself. And when you master yourself, no one, no insult, no failure, no circumstance can control you again. Closing scene. Soft instrumental fades out. Calm sunset shot. So next time life tests you, remember this. It's not what happens to you that matters. It's what you choose to do about it. Don't let your emotions drive you. Let your principles guide you. Pause, observe, and respond with reason. That is how you win the battle within. Because the world will always test you, but your reaction defines you. The Stoics often repeated a phrase that sounds simple but contains a depth of wisdom that can reshape your entire life. Live according to nature. At first, it sounds vague. What does that even mean to live according to nature? We live in cities, under artificial lights, surrounded by screens and noise. How can something so ancient still apply to us today? But when you look deeper, this lesson isn't about living in the woods or rejecting modern life. It's about aligning yourself with reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. It's about understanding your true nature as a human being and living in harmony with it. Scene shifts to narrator walking through a quiet forest trail. To live according to nature means to stop fighting what is. Because most of our suffering doesn't come from the world itself, it comes from our resistance to it. We want life to be easy, but nature has given us challenge. We want people to always treat us kindly, but nature has given us a world of different personalities. We want everything to last forever, but nature has built everything to change, to age, and to fade. And when we resist that truth, we break ourselves against it. Marcus Aurelius understood this. He reminded himself every morning that he was not just an emperor, but a man mortal, fragile, a part of something much larger. He wrote, "What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee." He knew he was part of a greater whole, the flow of nature, the order of life. He didn't exist to indulge himself, but to contribute, to serve. That's what it means to live according to nature. It's not passivity, it's participation. It's remembering that you are a part of something vast and interconnected. Cut to visuals of river currents, flowing water. Think of a river. If you jump into it and fight the current, you exhaust yourself. You go nowhere. But if you align with the flow, if you move with it, you travel farther with ease. Life works the same way. You can either fight it demanding that things, people, and events be exactly as you wish, or you can flow with it, accepting what comes, adapting with grace. Seneca warned, "Fate leads the willing and drags the unwilling." In other words, you can walk in step with reality, or you can be dragged by it in pain. How many times has that happened in your own life? You held on to a relationship long after it ended. You resisted change at work. You clung to youth while time moved steadily forward. That struggle, that bitterness, it's not caused by life. It's caused by refusing to live in harmony with it. Scene transition, modern city shots fading into nature scenes. But living according to nature isn't only about accepting what happens externally. It's also about living in accordance with your own nature, the nature of a rational, moral, social being. The Stoics believed that humans were born with reason not to be ruled by impulse or ego, but to act with wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. When we betray this nature, when we live in greed, cruelty, or ignorance, we create chaos inside ourselves. When we honor it, when we use reason, when we act justly and live with balance, we find peace. Ask yourself, am I living in line with what I was made for? Do I use my reason to guide my choices? Or do I let emotion drive me? Am I acting with justice? Or am I harming others for my own comfort? Am I practicing self-control? Or am I letting my desires rule me? Every one of these questions is a mirror, reflecting how aligned you are with your own nature. Soft music rises. Scene shows people helping each other, exercising discipline, making ethical choices. Modern life constantly tempts us to forget this. We're told happiness lies in possessions, in status, in endless consumption. But none of that aligns with nature. They're illusions, artificial distractions that pull us further from who we really are. That's why so many people feel empty even when they seem to have it all. Because deep down, the human soul doesn't crave luxury, it craves meaning. It doesn't crave constant pleasure, it craves purpose. And meaning, purpose, peace, they all come when you live in harmony with your true nature. When you work, not to impress, but to contribute. When you speak, not to dominate, but to understand. When you live, not for comfort, but for character. That's the Stoic definition of success. Scene fades to autumn trees losing their leaves. Living according to nature also means embracing impermanence. Everything changes. Everything ends. The seasons teach us this truth. Over and over again, spring blooms, summer flourishes, autumn fades, and winter strips everything bare. Life is no different. We age. We lose. We say goodbye. And that's not tragedy, it's nature's rhythm. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on his own mortality. He found peace, not fear, in remembering that he too would fade like those before him. Because when you accept impermanence, you start living more fully. You stop wasting time on what doesn't matter. You begin to cherish what's here, right now. Closing scene. Soft piano. Sunrise returns. It breathes too. So what does this mean for you here? Today. It means learning to align yourself with reality instead of demanding that reality align with you. It means recognizing your role as a human being, to live with reason, to act with virtue, to connect with others. It means flowing with change instead of fighting it, accepting loss without bitterness, and remembering that you are part of something greater than yourself. To live according to nature is to live free, free from the chains of unrealistic expectations, free from the torment of resisting what must be, free from the illusions of what society tells you to want. It is to walk in step with life as it truly is, and in doing so, to find a peace that nothing can take away. Fade out with calm voiceover. Live according to nature. Flow with life, don't fight it. And when you do, peace will find you. Not because the world became easier, but because you became wiser. The Stoics did not pray for an easy life. They didn't ask the gods to remove obstacles from their path. Instead, they trained themselves to see every challenge as training for the soul. To them, adversity wasn't punishment. It was preparation. It wasn't cruelty. It was the classroom of growth. Marcus Aurelius said it best. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Cut to visual. Someone lifting weights, struggling but pushing through. Think about that for a second. What if every obstacle in your life was not blocking your path, but becoming your path? What if every struggle you've faced was secretly shaping you into something stronger? The Stoics believe that every difficulty carries a hidden gift, a chance to practice a virtue. When life gives you pain, it gives you a chance to practice endurance. When life gives you injustice, it gives you a chance to practice justice. When life gives you fear, it gives you a chance to practice courage. And when you see adversity through that lens, life stops being something that happens to you and starts becoming something that happens for you. Scene transition. Narrator walking along a rugged mountain path. Think of a soldier preparing for battle. He doesn't grow stronger sitting in comfort. He grows stronger by facing the storm, by carrying weight, enduring pain, and testing his limits. That's what adversity does to your mind and character. It's your weight room. It's your battlefield. It's your teacher, Seneca wrote. A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials. If you avoid struggle, you avoid growth. If you hide from pain, you hide from strength. Ask yourself, when have you grown the most in life? Was it when everything was easy, predictable, and safe? Or was it when things fell apart, when you were tested, when you had to rebuild yourself from the ground up? Cut to visual montage. Moments of loss, failure, heartbreak, then rebuilding. Standing up, progress. Most people spend their lives running from discomfort. They fear pain, fear rejection, fear failure. But that fear is exactly what keeps them weak. Because comfort doesn't build strength, resistance does. Every difficulty you face is an invitation to rise. And every time you rise, you train the mind to stay steady the next time life strikes. Epictetus, who was born a slave and crippled for life, told his students something remarkable. He said, "Difficulties show what men are." He believed that suffering wasn't there to crush you, it was there to reveal you, to show you who you really are when everything comfortable is stripped away. Scene transition. Narrator stops walking, turns to camera. Voice softens. Maybe you've been through things that broke you. A betrayal, a loss, a season of chaos that made you question everything. It's easy to see those moments as unfair, as proof that life is cruel. But what if those very moments were the fires that forged your strength? Think about steel. It's useless until it's placed in the fire. The heat doesn't destroy it, it hardens it. It makes it unbreakable. That's what adversity is doing to you if you let it. Music rises slightly, hopeful tone. In modern life, we've become addicted to comfort. We heat our homes, cool our rooms, order food to our doors, and scroll endlessly to avoid boredom. We do everything to make life softer, and in doing so, we've made ourselves softer too. Then when real hardship hits a job loss, a heartbreak, an illness, we crumble. Not because the pain is unbearable, but because we never trained for it. The Stoics saw life differently. They welcomed difficulty. They said, "This is my training." Marcus Aurelius faced war, disease, and betrayal. He could have complained endlessly, but every night he reminded himself life was not meant to be easy. He saw every obstacle as a chance to practice virtue, to test what he had learned. And that's why, centuries later, we still read his words. Because he didn't just write philosophy, he lived it. Cut to close-up of narrator, speaking directly to camera. So what would happen if you did the same? What if, instead of saying, "Why me?" you said, "Why not me?" What if instead of asking for a lighter burden, you trained for a stronger back? Every obstacle becomes fuel. Every hardship becomes your workout. Every pain becomes your progress. This mindset transforms life itself into your training ground. A traffic jam becomes patience practice. A betrayal becomes forgiveness training. A loss becomes gratitude training. A failure becomes resilience training. Scene: sunrise, soft wind. Narrator voice lowers into reflection. The next time something hard happens, pause. Don't curse it. Don't ask for it to go away. Ask instead, what is this moment here to teach me? Because the Stoics believe the universe doesn't send you what you want, it sends you what you need to grow. Every obstacle is a mirror, showing you the strength you haven't yet realized you have. And the more you embrace this truth, because the moment you stop fearing adversity, you stop being its victim. You become its student, and eventually its master. Closing scene. Camera zooms out to wide landscape view, light breaking through clouds. So the next time life challenges you, remember, this is training. This pain is polishing you. This obstacle is shaping you into the person you were meant to become. The Stoics didn't pray for ease. They prayed for strength. They didn't seek comfort, they sought character. And when you learn to do the same, you'll discover something profound. You don't need the world to be easier. You just need to be stronger. Because the obstacle is not in your way. The obstacle is the way. One of the most dangerous traps of the human mind is desire. The endless craving for more success, more recognition. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. They saw that unchecked desire doesn't give you freedom, it gives you chains. Because the moment you depend on something external for happiness, your peace belongs to it. Seneca warned, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." And in today's world, where we're constantly told we need more, that warning is more relevant than ever. Scene shifts, narrator walking past bright billboards and luxury stores. Everywhere you look, there's a voice whispering, "You need this to be happy. You need this to be complete." And so you chase the house, the car, the body, the lifestyle, and maybe you get it. Maybe for a moment, you feel satisfied. But soon, the feeling fades. The new phone gets old. The promotion becomes routine. The excitement disappears, and the craving begins again. That's the trap of desire, an endless treadmill that never stops moving. You keep running, believing happiness is just one more step away, but the finish line keeps moving farther. Cut to a calm interior scene. Narrator sitting at a table with a cup of coffee. The Stoics weren't against pleasure. They weren't against ambition or success. They simply asked, who's in control, you or your desires? There's nothing wrong with wanting good things. But when those wants start owning you, when your peace rises and falls with them, that's when you become a prisoner of fortune. Epictetus taught his students to remember this simple truth. You may desire something, but remind yourself it is not truly yours. The outcome lies beyond your full control. If it comes, enjoy it with gratitude. If it doesn't, remain content. Because your peace should never depend on the roll of the dice. Scene transitions. Footage of nature, waves gently rolling in. Detaching from desire doesn't mean rejecting life. It means redefining wealth. It means realizing that abundance isn't found in what you collect. Seneca practiced this every day. Though he was wealthy, he would deliberately eat simple meals, sleep on the floor, and remind himself, "Is this what I feared?" He did it to prove to himself that happiness isn't built on luxury, it's built on character. And maybe that's something we've forgotten. We chase the illusion of more because we fear less. But when you train your mind to live with little, you become untouchable. What can fortune take from someone who has already learned to be content? Scene shift. Narrator looking out a window as rain falls. Let's be honest. Desire can be intoxicating. It feels like momentum, like purpose. But look deeper. Most desires are just distractions, dressed as dreams. They pull you away from the present moment, convincing you that happiness exists somewhere else, in something else, in someone else. The Stoics flipped that illusion on its head. They said, happiness isn't something you find later. It's something you choose now. It's not about getting more. It's about wanting less. Ask yourself, how often have you told yourself, I'll be happy when you get the job, when you move, when you're loved, when you make more money. And when that moment arrives, how long does the happiness last? A day? A week? A month? Then another when takes its place. That's the cycle of craving. It never ends unless you end it. Soft music transitions to a slower, meditative rhythm. The Stoics offered a cure: gratitude. They believe gratitude is the antidote to desire. Because when you focus on what you already have, your health, your mind, your friends, your breath, the hunger for more begins to fade. Seneca wrote, "He who is content with what he has is truly rich." That's not just a quote, it's a daily practice. When you wake up, remind yourself, I already have everything I need to live well today. Because happiness is not found in addition. It's found in appreciation. Scene transition. Montage of simple joys. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, lived simply. He slept on a modest bed, ate plain food, and reminded himself daily that luxury was fragile. He knew that possessions could disappear overnight, but virtue, the strength of your character, can never be taken from you. That's the Stoic definition of freedom. Not the freedom to have everything, but the freedom to need nothing. And ironically, when you stop craving more, you start to attract more because you live with clarity, with calm. Desire clouds your vision. Detachment clears it. Music softens. Voice turns introspective. Wit. Now, detachment doesn't mean apathy. It doesn't mean you stop caring, dreaming, or striving. It means you learn to care without clinging, to act without anxiety, to love without possession, to strive without desperation. Epictetus reminded his students, when you kiss your child, say to yourself, tomorrow he may die. That wasn't cruelty, it was clarity. It was a reminder to love deeply, to enjoy fully, but to never chain your heart to what must one day fade. That's true detachment. It's not cold, it's compassionate. It's not distant, it's aware. It's understanding that life is temporary, and that's exactly why it's precious. Closing scene, narrator standing outdoors at sunset, voice calm but firm. So the next time you feel desire pulling you, pause, ask yourself, will this make me free, or will it make me a slave? Will this bring peace, or will it add noise to my soul? The Stoics believe that everything external is borrowed wealth, status, possessions, even life itself. And the only thing that truly belongs to you is your character. Detach from desire, and you'll discover a wealth greater than fortune. The peace of a mind that needs nothing, and the freedom of a soul that cannot be owned. Because when you free yourself from the hunger for more, you finally have enough. That's the Stoic way, not to have everything, but to be free from needing everything. We live in a world built for comfort. Everything is designed to make life easier, faster delivery, softer beds, climate control at the touch of a button. And yet, despite all this comfort, people are more anxious, fragile, and restless than ever. The Stoics saw this weakness centuries ago. They warned that comfort, when overindulged, that the more we avoid hardship, the weaker we become. Seneca wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." And the truth is, life will test you. But the wise person doesn't wait for those tests to come, he trains for them. This is the essence of voluntary discomfort, the Stoic art of practicing hardship before hardship practices you. Scene transition. Narrator walking in cold morning air, jacket open, visible breath. The Stoics believe that strength isn't built in comfort, it's built in challenge. They deliberately expose themselves to discomfort to toughen the spirit and remind the body who's in charge. Seneca would sleep on the floor for several nights, eat the simplest food, and wear rough clothing. Each time he would ask himself, "Is this what I feared?" And every time he realized it wasn't so bad. The fear was worse than the reality. Epictetus, who was born a slave and lived in pain, told his students, "Difficulties show what men are." He knew that comfort hides weakness, but adversity reveals character. Cut to modern scenes. People stuck in traffic, frustrated by slow Wi-Fi, upset by small inconveniences. Look around today. We get angry when the internet lags for 5 seconds. We panic when a flight is delayed. We call a mild inconvenience a nightmare. But that's not life testing us, that's our comfort betraying us. Because the truth is, most people don't have a lack of comfort, they have a lack of resilience. When you practice discomfort, you reverse that weakness. You teach yourself that you can handle more than you think. Take a cold shower, fast for a day, go for a run in the rain, sleep without your usual pillow, walk instead of drive. Each small act whispers to your mind, "I am not fragile. I can endure. I am stronger than my circumstances." Scene shifts. Narrator speaking calmly by a fireplace. The purpose isn't to punish yourself. It's to train yourself. When you practice discomfort on purpose, you build a mind that remains calm under pressure. Because when life eventually takes away your comfort, as it always does, you'll be ready. When you've chosen discomfort before, you recognize it when it comes. It doesn't shock you. It doesn't break you. It simply reminds you, "I've been here before. I know how to stand firm." The Stoics called this premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. They imagined loss, pain, exile, and death not to be morbid, but to prepare the mind for the inevitable. Marcus Aurelius himself, the most powerful man in the world, wrote in Meditations, "Do not wish for what is easy." Viter. Cut to footage. Sunrise training, early wake-ups. When you wake up early, even when you don't want to, when you push yourself through one more rep, when you work while others rest, you are training something far deeper than the body. You are training your will. And the will, once trained, becomes unbreakable. The modern world tells you, take the shortcut, stay comfortable, reward yourself. The Stoic world says the opposite. The Stoic world says, take the long road, endure what others avoid, reward yourself with strength. Scene transition. Narrator smiling slightly, gentle background music. Let me ask you this. How often do you intentionally make life a little harder for yourself? Because comfort is not the goal of life. And growth always comes with discomfort. Every muscle in your body grows only when it's torn and rebuilt. Your mind is no different. When you choose voluntary discomfort, you're not rejecting happiness. You're building the foundation that true happiness rests upon. And here's the paradox. The more you face discomfort, the more peace you find. Because nothing scares you anymore. You stop fearing what could go wrong because you've already trained yourself to survive it. Cut to montage. Ancient Roman imagery blending into modern life. Commuters, athletes, firefighters, parents working late. Seneca once wrote to his friend Lucilius, "Set aside a number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" That practice isn't outdated, it's timeless. You can live it today. You can practice fasting, not because you're forced to, but to remind yourself you can. You can walk, instead of drive, not to save gas, but to strengthen willpower. Each small act of discomfort is a lesson whispered to your soul. Happiness doesn't depend on comfort. Peace doesn't depend on luxury. Scene softens. Narrator in quiet reflection. Think about this. If comfort can be taken away by one power outage, one lost paycheck, one bad day, then it was never real peace to begin with. But if your peace comes from within, from knowing you can endure hunger, cold, and loss, then no one can take it from you. That's why the Stoics train themselves daily, not to seek suffering, but to remove fear. Because once you stop fearing discomfort, you stop being controlled by it. That's freedom. That's power. That's Stoicism in action. Closing scene, narrator facing camera, voice strong, steady. So here's your challenge. This week, pick one act of voluntary discomfort. Just one. Skip a meal, take a cold shower, walk barefoot in the grass, sleep on the floor, leave your phone behind for a day. And while you do it, say to yourself, "This is training. This is how I become stronger." Because life will not always be easy. Comfort will come and go, but the strength you build, that stays. The Stoic doesn't pray for lighter burdens. He builds a stronger back. And when the storm comes, as it always does, he stands firm because he has already practiced it. That is the Stoic way. That is voluntary discomfort. And that is how you prepare for everything life will throw at you. Not with fear, but with unshakable strength. Of all the things you'll ever lose in life, the most expensive is time. You can earn back money. You can rebuild a career. You can even repair a broken reputation. But every minute that passes is gone forever. The Stoics understood this deeply. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And that's the truth. Most people don't live short lives. They live distracted ones. We don't die early, we just give our hours away to things that don't matter. Scene shift. Narrator sitting at a desk, glancing at a clock. In the embodies so, quote, scene shift. To do, think about how you spend your days. How many hours slip away in meaningless scrolling, gossip, mindless entertainment, or overthinking things outside your control? If you're honest with yourself, you'll see what Seneca saw 2,000 years ago. That most people guard their money more fiercely than their time. If someone tried to steal $10 from you, you'd protest. But when someone steals an hour of your life with gossip, drama, or distraction, you just hand it over. Time is the one resource you can't refill. And that's exactly why the Stoics called it the most sacred currency of life. Cut to montage. Sunrise. People waking early, writing, meditating, working with focus. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, ruled one of the most powerful empires in history, and yet he constantly reminded himself how brief life truly is. In Meditations, he wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." That wasn't meant to depress him, it was meant to sharpen his focus, to remind him that life is fragile, unpredictable, and precious. And if even an emperor had to fight for his own time, what excuse do we have? Scene transitions. Narrator walking through a crowded street. Modern life is a thief. Technology, noise, and constant stimulation, all designed to steal your attention. Every app, every notification, every algorithm is competing for the same thing, your time. And if you're not careful, you'll spend your entire life busy but never truly alive. The Stoic way is different. It's deliberate. It's intentional. It's about saying no to what doesn't matter so you can say yes to what does. Seneca said, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." And he was right. When you divide yourself among 1,000 small distractions, you rob yourself of depth, the depth that gives meaning to your life. Cut to footage, someone closing social media tabs, setting their phone aside, writing in a notebook. Guarding your time fiercely doesn't mean living rigidly. It means living consciously. It means asking yourself, is this worth an hour of my life? Is this aligned with who I want to become? If the answer is no, walk away. If the answer is yes, give it your full attention. The Stoics believe that clarity is power. When you know what's essential, you automatically know what to ignore. Most people don't lack time. They lack focus. Scene softens. Narrator in quiet reflection. Morning light streaming in. Here's a truth most people avoid. You are dying every day. Every sunrise subtracts one more from the total you have left. And yet we act as if we have endless tomorrows. We say, I'll start tomorrow. I'll fix that later. I'll spend time with them someday. But someday isn't on the calendar. Someday never comes. The Stoics used memento mori, the reminder of death, not to create fear, but to create urgency. When you live as if today might be your last, you stop postponing what matters most. You stop scrolling and start living. Scene. Narrator looking directly into the camera. Firm but compassionate tone. So here's the question. What are you doing with the hours you can never get back? Because time is not just a clock ticking, it's your life, draining drop by drop. When you give it to anger, you lose twice. Once in emotion, once in time. When you give it to gossip, you trade eternity for nothing. When you give it to fear, but when you give it to purpose, to love, to self-mastery, time becomes sacred again. Cut to montage, people journaling, spending time with family, exercising, meditating, building something meaningful. The Stoics weren't against relaxation or leisure. They simply wanted every moment to mean something. Even rest was intentional. Even conversation was meaningful. Even silence was sacred. Marcus Aurelius ruled armies, faced plagues, conspiracies, and betrayal, but still found time to write his thoughts, to reflect, to train his mind, because he knew if he didn't guard his time, and that same truth applies to you. If you don't control your time, someone else will. Scene fades to black briefly, then reopens with soft piano music. Seneca compared time to a precious estate. He said most people spend their lives building castles, careers, wealth, fame, and then abandon the very land upon which it all stands, their time. Ask yourself, are you living your life by design or by default? Do you wake up with purpose or drift through the day reacting to everything around you? The Stoic way is to live intentionally, to use time not as a waste, but as an investment in your soul. Closing scene. Narrator standing under evening light, calm and resolute tone. So here's your challenge. For 1 week, keep track of your hours. Write down where they go. At the end, ask yourself, did I spend them or did I waste them? Then start cutting. Cut the trivial. Cut the noise. Cut the endless busy that fills your life but empties your heart. Replace it with silence, with purpose, with presence. Because time, once gone, never returns, but meaning can be found in every moment you choose to live intentionally. The Stoics taught that life is not short, it's just badly spent. So guard your time fiercely. Protect it like your most precious possession, because it is. And when you learn to master your time, you master your life. That is the Stoic way. There's a battle happening inside you every single day, and it's not between you and the world. It's between you and your thoughts. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And in that one sentence lies the heart of Stoic philosophy. Your mind is your kingdom. If you control it, no storm can shake you. If you don't, even the smallest breeze will destroy your peace. Scene transition. Narrator walking through a busy city street, people rushing, chaos everywhere. Every day, your mind is flooded with impressions. A rude comment, a missed call, a bad headline, a sudden setback. And before you even realize it, your thoughts begin to spiral. This isn't fair. This ruins everything. Why does this always happen to me? You see, it's not the event itself that disturbs you. It's the story your mind tells about it. That's what Seneca meant when he said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Your mind creates suffering long before the world ever does. Cut to narrator in a calm room, sitting with a notebook. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, surrounded by war and betrayal, reminded himself every morning, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Notice the wisdom here. He doesn't say, "Control the world." He says, "Control your perception of it." That's the Stoic way. You can't stop the storm, but you can stop your mind from calling it a tragedy. Scene change, narrator looking directly at camera, tone more personal. Think about how much time you've wasted replaying something that's already happened. A conversation you can't change. A mistake you can't undo. A betrayal that's long gone. Those moments live only in your mind, but your body relives them as if they were happening now. That's the power of thought. Your thoughts can heal you, or they can enslave you. And the difference is awareness. The Stoics compared the mind to a fortress. Every thought is a visitor knocking on your gate. Some are friends, gratitude, clarity, reason. Others are enemies, fear, envy, resentment. The question is, who do you let inside? Cut to scene. Narrator walking through a quiet park, speaking slowly. You can't stop every thought from appearing, but you can choose which ones you feed. When anger knocks, pause. When fear whispers, question it. When envy shows up, remind yourself, someone else's success doesn't steal my peace. That's how Stoics practice mental discipline. Not by denying emotion, but by examining it. By asking, is this thought helping me live with virtue or pulling me away from it? Epictetus told his students to challenge every disturbing impression with 3 questions. Is this within my control? Is it true? Is it useful? If the answer is no, let it go. Scene fades into slow montage, scrolling social media, watching news, overthinking late at night. In modern life, our greatest enemy isn't pain, it's noise. The constant flood of information, opinions, and outrage hijacks our attention. One headline, one comment, one rumor, and suddenly, the Stoics would look at our world and see one thing: people giving away their peace for free. They would tell you, guard your mind as you would guard your home. Don't let every stranger walk through the door, because whatever you allow into your mind shapes your emotions, your habits, your character, and eventually, scene. Narrator sitting in front of a candle. Soft light. Controlling your thoughts doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. It means seeing reality clearly, without distortion, without panic. Pain happens. Loss happens. But your judgment about them decides whether they destroy you or strengthen you. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, if you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your judgment about them. And this you have the power to revoke. That's what freedom looks like. The ability to rewrite the story in your head. Cut to narrator, tone becoming more passionate and inspiring. When you master your thoughts, you master your reactions. And when you master your reactions, you master your life. Because nobody can make you angry without your permission. Nobody can ruin your day unless you hand them the power to do so. The Stoics didn't seek control over others. They sought control over themselves. And that's why they were unbreakable, not because life was easy, but because their minds were trained for it. Scene change, people meditating, journaling, practicing self-awareness. It's great. So how do you train your mind like a Stoic? It starts with awareness. Catch yourself in the moment before reaction. Pause, breathe, observe. Ask yourself, am I choosing this thought Or is it choosing me? Then choose deliberately. Replace judgment with curiosity. Replace panic with patience. Replace resentment with reason. And repeat every day, every moment until clarity becomes your habit. Soft music fades to silence. Narrator looking calm, centered. The mind once mastered becomes your greatest ally, but left untrained, it's your worst enemy. So train it, feed it with philosophy, not gossip. Guide it with reason, not impulse. Challenge it with reflection, not distraction. Because at the end of the day, your thoughts shape your reality. You become what you repeatedly think. And when you choose your thoughts with purpose, you choose your peace, your strength, your freedom. Closing scene. Narrator standing under open sky, wind blowing lightly. So here's your Stoic challenge. The next time you catch yourself lost in negative thinking, stop, breathe, and remind yourself, this thought does not serve me. Then let it go. Write in the comments below, master the mind. Let it be your reminder that control is possible, that peace begins within, and that no matter what chaos surrounds you, you always have power over your mind. Because the Stoics were right. The world doesn't make you suffer. Your thoughts about it do. Master your mind, and you'll master your world. That is the Stoic way. If you want peace of mind, start here. Learn to focus only on what you can control. Because almost everything that makes you anxious, angry, or afraid comes from trying to control something you never truly could. Epictetus opened his entire teaching with one truth. Some things are within our control, and some are not. He believed that forgetting this distinction is the root of all human misery. And he was right. Scene transition. Narrator walking slowly through a crowded street. Voice thoughtful. Think about your day. You worry about what people think of you, but you can't control their thoughts. You stress about the weather, the economy, the news, but you can't control any of it. You replay the past, but you can't rewrite it. You fear the future, but it hasn't even arrived. Meanwhile, you ignore the only battlefield that truly belongs to you. Your own thoughts, your own choices, your own actions. The Stoics understood something most people never realize. The more you try to control the uncontrollable, the weaker you become. But when you focus on what's truly yours, your response, your character, your effort, you reclaim your power. Scene shift. Narrator seated on a park bench, watching leaves move in the wind. Marcus Aurelius faced plagues, betrayal, and war. Yet he wrote in his journal every morning, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Notice the wisdom in that. He doesn't deny that chaos exists. He simply refuses to give it his peace. He accepted what was beyond him and focused entirely on what wasn't. His decisions, his discipline, his virtue. That's why his empire could be falling apart, but he still lived with calm clarity. Cut to scene. Narrator looks into the camera. Voice grows firmer. Now, ask yourself, how much of your suffering comes from fighting reality? You want someone to change. You want the world to be fair. You want the outcome to match your effort. But what if life doesn't bend that way? Will you collapse? Or will you adapt? The Stoics didn't believe in passive surrender. They believed in rational acceptance. They knew that peace doesn't come from controlling everything. It comes from controlling the right things. Your attitude, your work ethic, your response, your integrity. Everything else is noise. Scene transition. Epictetus used the image of an archer. Your job, he said, is to aim well, to prepare your bow, to steady your hand, to take your shot. Once the arrow leaves, its flight is no longer yours. The wind, the distance, the movement of the target, all beyond your control. If you tie your happiness to the arrow's flight, you will live in endless anxiety. But if your peace comes from the act of aiming well, then no matter where the arrow lands, you are free. That's Stoic freedom. You do your best, and you let the rest go. Cut to modern examples. A woman stuck in traffic, a man getting bad news, a student waiting for results. The world today constantly tempts you to focus on what you can't control. traffic jams, politics, social media arguments, people's opinions. But when you chase control over these things, you become reactive instead of rational, emotional instead of intentional, and slowly you hand away your peace one frustration at a time. Scene softens. Narrator sitting in a quiet room, sunlight streaming in. The Stoics train themselves to pause before reacting and ask one question. Is this within my control? If the answer was no, they released it immediately. Because every moment you spend worrying about what you can't control is a moment stolen from what you can improve. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. It not oblace as." So instead of obsessing over results, focus on effort. Instead of worrying about others' actions, refine your own. Instead of trying to change the world, strengthen your soul. Scene. Narrator walking near the ocean, waves crashing gently. Let me ask you, how much lighter would your life feel if you stopped trying to control everything? What would happen if, instead of fighting the current, you learned to move with it? When a storm hits, you can't calm the wind, but you can adjust your sails. When people disappoint you, you can't change them, but you can choose your response. When life throws you pain, you can't erase it, but you can decide what meaning to give it. That's the power the Stoics spoke of. Not control over fate, but control over how you face it. Scene transition. Narrator with confident but peaceful tone. Seneca warned, "He suffers more than necessary who suffers before it is necessary." Think about how often you do that. Worrying about what might happen, stressing about outcomes you can't shape, fighting battles that exist only in your imagination. That's not preparation, that's torture. Preparation is action. Worry is paralysis. The Stoics chose the first. They acted where they could and accepted what they couldn't. And that's why they were unshakable. Not because they controlled everything, but because they didn't need to. Closing scene. Narrator standing outdoors at sunset, calm but powerful delivery. So here's your challenge. Every time you feel frustration rise, pause. Ask yourself, is this within my control? If it's not, release it. If it is, take responsibility and act with reason and virtue. Write in the comments, "My power is mine." Let it remind you that your strength doesn't depend on the world. It depends on how you choose to face it. Because the moment you stop trying to control what isn't yours, you finally master what is yourself. And when you master yourself, everything else begins to fall into place. That is the Stoic way. There's one lesson that sits at the heart of all Stoic wisdom. One truth that defines everything else. The only true good is virtue, and the only true evil is vice. Wealth, status, but your character, that's yours to build, to protect, to live by. Marcus Aurelius ruled the largest empire in the world, but every morning he reminded himself, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. That's how an emperor kept his soul humble in a palace filled with temptation, by putting virtue above all. Scene transition. Narrator walking slowly through marble halls or an old library. Seneca once said, "A good character, once established, is not easily overthrown." He knew that real power doesn't come from position. It comes from principle. Because when everything else is stripped away, your job, your possessions, your reputation, the one thing that remains is your integrity. And that's what defines whether you live freely or live enslaved. The Stoics believe that virtue is the anchor of the soul. Without it, you drift tossed by desires, fears, and emotions. With it, you stay grounded, no matter how wild the storm becomes. Cut to narrator facing camera, tone firm but compassionate. So what does it mean to live with virtue? The Stoics identified 4 pillars, 4 unshakable values that form the foundation of a good life: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Wisdom to see clearly, to act according to reason, not impulse. Courage to face fear, pain, and loss with dignity. Justice to treat others fairly and fulfill your duty as a human being. Temperance to master your desires instead of being ruled by them. If you can live by these four, you will never be at war with yourself again. Scene change. Visual montage of moral tests. A person tempted to lie. Another facing criticism. Another helping someone in need. Every day, life gives you a test of character. Do you act with integrity when no one's watching? Do you keep your word when it costs you something? Do you speak truth when silence would be easier? Those moments, small, quiet, unseen, are where your true strength is built. The Stoics didn't believe virtue was something you talk about. They believed it was something you practice. Philosophy wasn't theory to them. It was a way of life, a daily discipline. As Seneca wrote, philosophy teaches us to act, not to speak. Scene softens. Narrator looking out over the horizon. The world today praises success, not virtue. It glorifies wealth over wisdom, popularity over integrity. But look closer. How many people with fame and riches are still restless, angry, and lost? Without virtue, success feels empty, because no amount of achievement can replace the peace that comes from a clear conscience. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius could command armies, but he couldn't command fate. He couldn't stop betrayal, illness, but he could always control how he lived, with reason, compassion, and justice. That's why his words still echo across time. Not because he ruled. Scene transition. Narrator sitting in quiet reflection, candlelight flickering. Virtue gives you freedom, because when your happiness depends only on living rightly, no one can take it from you. They can insult you, but you remain kind. They can cheat you. They can hate you, but you refuse to hate them back. That's not weakness, that's mastery. Because the highest victory isn't conquering others, it's conquering yourself. Cut to modern examples. People showing patience in traffic, honesty at work, compassion to strangers. Imagine what the world would look like if more people lived this way. If leaders chose integrity over popularity, if businesses valued justice over greed, if individuals acted with courage instead of fear. You can't change the entire world, but you can change your own actions. And that's how Stoicism begins to transform not just a person, but a culture. One disciplined choice at a time. Scene fades to soft golden light. Narrator's tone becomes warm and inspiring. Virtue isn't about perfection, it's about direction. Every mistake, every failure, is another chance to practice it. Wisdom in how you think, courage in what you face, justice in how you treat others, temperance in how you live. The Stoics never expected to be flawless. Even Marcus Aurelius admitted his flaws every day in his writings. But he practiced. He tried again. And in that effort, scene, narrator walking down a quiet street, evening sun behind him. Ask yourself, what do I truly value? Is it comfort or courage? Approval or honesty? Pleasure or purpose? The answers reveal who you are. But more importantly, they reveal who you can become. Virtue is the one thing that can't be bought, faked, or taken away. It's built in silence. It's proven in action. And it's remembered long after everything else fades. Closing scene, narrator facing camera, voice calm but strong. So here's your challenge. Before you make a choice big or small, pause and ask, is this the virtuous thing to do? If it is, do it even when it's hard. If it's not, walk away even when it's tempting. Write in the comments below, virtue first. Let it be your reminder that no matter what happens, you always have the power to live with integrity. Because when you live with virtue above all, you don't just survive the chaos of life, you transcend it. That is the Stoic way. That is how you become unshakable. Most people pray for an easy life, but the Stoics never did. They didn't ask the gods to remove obstacles from their path. They asked for the strength to face them. Because to the Stoics, adversity wasn't an enemy. It was the greatest teacher life could offer. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Every difficulty, every heartbreak, every setback wasn't punishment. It was training. Scene transition. Narrator walking through a windy mountain trail. Imagine this for a moment. A soldier doesn't grow strong by sitting in comfort. He grows strong by lifting weight, by carrying burdens, by enduring pain that most people run from. Life works the same way. Without challenge, you stay weak. Without friction, you remain untested. Without resistance, your potential stays asleep. Seneca said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Every storm you've survived was shaping you, even when you couldn't see it. Cut to narrator looking directly into the camera, voice steady. Think about the hardest moments of your life, the heartbreak that tore you apart, the betrayal you never saw coming, the loss that broke your heart open. You didn't ask for those moments, but you learned from them, didn't you? You discovered that you could endure more than you thought. That pain didn't destroy you, it revealed you. That's what Stoicism teaches. Adversity doesn't break you. It shows you what you're made of. Scene change. Footage of Marcus Aurelius' statue, fading into modern people working hard, facing rejection, rebuilding their lives. Epictetus was born a slave. His body was broken by his master, but his mind was never conquered. He taught his students that life is like a wrestling match. If you don't choose your opponent, but you can always choose how you fight. When life throws you pain, use it to build endurance. When life gives you fear, use it to practice courage. When life tests your patience, use it to strengthen self-control. That's how Stoics lived. They turned every hardship into a weapon of growth. Scene transition. Narrator sitting by a window. Rain outside. We live in an age of comfort. We want everything fast, easy, and painless. We avoid struggle as if it's a disease. But the truth is, comfort breeds weakness. The more you avoid discomfort, the less capable you become of handling life. That's why small inconveniences make people furious. A delayed flight, a slow internet connection, a bad day, and suddenly it feels like the end of the world. But for the Stoic, these are opportunities. Little reminders that strength is built in the fire, not in the shade. Cut to montage. People training, studying late, enduring failure, staying calm under stress. Seneca once warned, "You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire." He meant this: we spend our lives avoiding pain as if we'll live forever. But we forget that pain is the path to power. When you face adversity with a calm and disciplined mind, you stop saying, "Why me?" and start saying, "Why not me?" Because every test becomes a chance to grow stronger. Every obstacle becomes a workout for the soul. Scene. Narrator speaking firmly, standing in front of stormy waves. Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal, war, plague, and endless loss. But every night, he wrote in his journal, "Life is not what happens to you. It's how you respond." That's not just philosophy. That's survival. When the world turns against you, you have two options: collapse or rise. The Stoic chooses to rise. Not because the pain disappears, but because they understand that pain is part of the training. Scene softens. Narrator walking through a quiet forest after the storm. Look back at your own life. Every failure, every setback, every heartbreak led you here. It refined you. It taught you lessons success never could. You see, an easy life makes soft people, but hardship, faced wisely, makes you resilient. When you stop fearing adversity, you stop being afraid of life itself. The Stoics didn't pray for fewer problems. They prayed for stronger character. And that's what true peace is. Not the absence of struggle, but the strength to endure it. Scene. Narrator and reflection. Warm golden lighting. Epictetus told his students to view hardship as material for virtue. If life gives you cruelty, it's material for compassion. If life gives you fear, it's material for courage. If life gives you injustice, it's material for integrity. Everything life throws at you is another rep in the gym of the soul. Each struggle, a weight. Each test, a lesson. Each pain, a path to wisdom. Closing scene. Narrator facing camera, strong but gentle tone. So here's your challenge. The next time life tests you, Don't ask for it to be easier. Ask to become stronger. When the storm comes, remind yourself, this is training. When you're tired, remind yourself, this is building me. When you're in pain, remind yourself, this is polishing me, because the Stoics were right. What stands in the way becomes the way. Write in the comments, this is training. Let those words guide you when things get hard, because one day you'll look back and realize that every battle, every wound was preparing you for this moment. You weren't being punished, you were being shaped. And that's how you grow into the person you were meant to be. That is the Stoic way. Not to avoid adversity, but to embrace it as training. The Stoics believe that the key to peace isn't to fight life. It's to live in harmony with it, to live according to nature. But what does that mean? It doesn't mean living in the woods or rejecting civilization. It means aligning your soul with the order of the universe. To stop resisting what is and start acting with reason, purpose, and acceptance. Because the more you fight life, the more it fights you back. Scene transition. Narrator walking slowly beside a river. Tone thoughtful. Epictetus taught that nature gave us everything we need to live well. A rational mind, a moral compass, and the power to choose our response. Everything else, money, status, possessions, even comfort, is secondary. To live according to nature means to use your reason, to act with wisdom instead of impulse, to cooperate with others instead of competing for everything, and to accept what happens as part of the greater order. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, the universe is change. Life is opinion. You can't control the flow of the river, but you can learn to move with it, not against it. Scene. Narrator standing on a mountain overlooking a valley. Think about how often we resist the natural flow of life. We complain about aging, even though time moves forward for everyone. We fear death, even though it's the most natural part of existence. We grow angry when plans fall apart, as if life owes us perfect control. But the Stoics remind us, nature doesn't make mistakes. Only our expectations do. When you live according to nature, you begin to see everything, even pain, as part of a larger pattern. Cut to footage. Rain falling, flowers blooming, waves crashing, all in rhythmic balance. Nature teaches balance. It teaches patience. It teaches impermanence. The tree doesn't resist the wind it bends. The waves don't fight the shore, they return. Again and again. The seasons don't rush, they arrive in their own time. But humans, we rush, resist, demand, and complain. We want endless summer and no winter. Endless success and no failure. Endless pleasure and no pain. And then we wonder why we feel anxious, empty, and lost. Scene. Narrator sitting on a park bench, voice calm and centered. To the Stoics, living according to nature also means living according to your own nature, to live in harmony with your higher self. You were not made for laziness, gossip, or envy. You were made for discipline, reflection, and service. Marcus Aurelius said, "What is not good for the beehive cannot be good for the bee." That's the Stoic view of human nature. We're all connected, and living well means living not just for ourselves, but for the greater good. When you act with reason, kindness, and justice, you are living in harmony with what you were designed to be. A rational moral being in a rational moral universe. Scene transition. Narrator walking through busy modern life. Traffic, screens, noise. Modern life pulls us away from nature. We live surrounded by noise, speed, and distraction. We've forgotten what silence feels like. We chase things that promise happiness, money, approval, recognition, and then wonder why peace never comes. The Stoics would look at our world and say, "You have more comfort than kings once had, and yet less peace than a beggar who accepts his fate." Because comfort isn't peace. Peace is alignment. When your thoughts, words, and actions flow with the rhythm of life, not against it. Cut to visuals. A person meditating outdoors, breathing slowly. When you live according to nature, you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "How can I respond with virtue to what is happening?" You start to see challenges as part of life's natural rhythm. You start to see other people's flaws as part of human imperfection. You start to see death not as a tragedy, but as a reminder to live fully while you're here. Seneca wrote, "He who fears death will never do anything worthy of a living man." To live naturally is to live courageously, to flow with life's changes instead of clinging to what's already gone. Scene: narrator standing near the ocean at dusk, voice slow and resonant. Think of your life like the tide. Sometimes it rises, sometimes it falls. Sometimes it's calm, sometimes it's violent. But no matter what, it always moves forward. That's the natural law of the universe. Change. Everything grows, decays, and transforms. And so do you. When you resist that truth, you suffer. When you embrace it, you grow. The Stoic learns to adapt like water. Soft enough to flow, strong enough to carve stone. Scene softens. Gentle piano music. Narrator's tone becomes reflective and warm. To live according to nature is also to live simply. To take joy in what is enough. To need less and appreciate more. Because nature itself is never in excess. It gives exactly what is needed, no more, no less. When you align your desires with that simplicity, you stop craving endlessly and start living peacefully. You begin to realize that happiness was never out there. It was always here, waiting for you to stop resisting and start accepting. Closing scene. Narrator facing camera with serene natural background. So here's your challenge. Tomorrow, spend 1 hour in nature. No phone, no music, no distractions. Just breathe, observe, and listen. And while you're there, remind yourself, this is what I'm a part of. This is where peace begins. Write in the comments, flow with life, because that's what Stoicism teaches. That happiness doesn't come from controlling life, but from moving in harmony with it. When you stop fighting what is, you begin to live as nature intended, calm, wise, and free. That is the Stoic way. To live according to nature, and in doing so, to finally live at peace. We live as if we'll never die. We rush through our days, chase status, hold grudges, and postpone what truly matters. All while pretending we have infinite tomorrows. But the Stoics taught the opposite truth. The most powerful reminder in all of philosophy. Memento mori, remember. You will die. Not as a threat, not as a shadow, but as a light, a way to see life clearly. Because only when you remember your time is limited, do you begin to truly live. Scene transition. Narrator walking slowly through a cemetery path lined with autumn leaves. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now." Let that determine what you do and say and think. He wasn't being dark or morbid. He was reminding himself and us that awareness of death gives birth to purpose. When you remember that this day, this hour, this breath could be your last, you stop wasting time on the meaningless. You stop arguing about petty things. You stop waiting for the right moment to live the life you actually want. You start waking up. Cut to scene. Narrator looking at the sky, tone steady but emotional. Seneca said, "It's not that we have a short life, but that we waste much of it." Think about that. Your life isn't too short, your attention is too scattered. You say you don't have time to read, to exercise, to forgive, to love, to create, but somehow you have endless time to scroll, to complain, to fear. That's not a lack of time. That's a lack of awareness. Memento mori brings you back to the truth. Every minute you spend alive is borrowed, and one day, the clock runs out. So the question isn't how long you'll live, but how deeply. Scene transition. Visuals of ancient Rome fading into modern life. Soldiers, emperors, workers, parents. The Stoics didn't dwell on death to be gloomy. They practiced remembering it to free themselves from fear. Because when you stop fearing death, you stop fearing life. Epictetus reminded his students, "Death is not dreadful, but the fear of death is dreadful." And he was right. It's not the end itself that paralyzes us, But the way we avoid thinking about it, we act as if acknowledging death makes it come faster, when in truth, it makes life richer. Cut to narrator speaking softly beside a window at dusk. Marcus Aurelius meditated on death every single day, not out of despair, but to sharpen his sense of gratitude. He would remind himself, this meal, this conversation, this moment may be my last, and that awareness made him present. It made him kind. It made him brave. Because when you know how fragile life is, you stop wasting it on anger, envy, and fear. You start cherishing what's real, the people you love, the work that matters, the moments that make you feel alive. Scene, montage, people hugging, laughing, looking at old photos, watching sunsets. Imagine if you lived each day as if it could be your final one. Not with panic, but with clarity. Would you still complain about small inconveniences? Would you still hold grudges for years? Would you still delay your dreams, saying, I'll do it later? Memento Mori reminds you that later. Seneca warned, while we wait for life, life passes. And he was right. We keep waiting for the perfect time, the perfect feeling, the perfect opportunity. But life doesn't wait, it moves. And if you're not paying attention, it moves without you. Scene shift. Narrator walking along the ocean at sunset. Soft wind sound. To remember death is to remember urgency. Not the urgency to panic, but to prioritize. To love now, to forgive now, to build now, to live now. Because the Stoics saw death not as a thief, but as a teacher. One that whispers every day, don't waste this. When you understand that, every sunrise becomes sacred. Every meal becomes gratitude. Every conversation becomes a gift. Scene. Narrator speaking directly to the camera, tone firm and heartfelt. You see, Memento Mori isn't about death at all. It's about life. It's about refusing to sleepwalk through your days. It's about living with intention, acting with integrity, and speaking with meaning. Because one day, your last words will be spoken. Your last breath will be drawn. Your last sunrise will rise without you. And when that day comes, the only question that will matter is, did you live well? Scene softens, visuals of morning light over mountains, new beginnings. The Stoics believe that the awareness of death is the ultimate motivator. It cuts through all illusion. It humbles your ego and sharpens your purpose. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, that's the message of Memento Mori. Not fear but focus. Not despair but discipline. Not hopelessness but heart. Closing scene. Narrator standing under the night sky, looking up at the stars. So here's your challenge. Take 1 minute every morning to whisper these words to yourself. Memento Mori. Remember, you will die. Then ask yourself, if this were my last day, how would I live it? Would you waste it on resentment or fill it with purpose? Would you chase status or share kindness? Would you hide in fear? Write in the comments, I choose to live and is rive, because that's the truth behind the Stoic reminder. We all die, but not all of us truly live. When you remember that your time is short, you stop drifting. You start becoming, and that's where all peace begins. Not in denying death, but in embracing life completely before it's gone. That is the Stoic way. Memento Mori, remember, you will die. And therefore, live fully. In God, Bon. And now we've reached the end of this journey. 13 lessons carved from 2,000 years of wisdom. You've walked beside Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus. You've faced storms with them, fallen with them. And maybe now, something inside you feels different. Not louder, but quieter. Not weaker, but steadier. That's the gift of Stoicism. It doesn't promise a perfect life. It teaches you how to live beautifully within an imperfect one. Scene transition. Faint visuals of old journal pages turning. Think back for a moment. We began with the first lesson. Accept what you cannot control. Because peace doesn't come from changing the world, it comes from ending your war with reality. We learn to master our reactions, to pause before letting emotion dictate our fate. We remembered to live according to nature, to stop resisting what simply is. We learn to embrace adversity as training, to use pain as a tool, not a punishment. We practice detachment from desire, so we could finally be free from craving what was never ours. We learn to guard our time fiercely, to stop treating it as infinite when it's the only thing that isn't. And finally, we came home to virtue, to wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, the four pillars that no storm can destroy. Scene. Soft music fades, replaced by slow breathing sounds, wind over a mountain ridge. But here's the truth the Stoics never let us forget. All of this means nothing if you don't practice it. Philosophy is not meant to decorate your bookshelf. It's meant to shape your character. Marcus Aurelius never wrote meditations for others to read. He wrote it to train himself, to stay calm while commanding armies, to stay humble while ruling an empire, to stay kind while surrounded by betrayal. Seneca didn't write letters to impress students. He wrote them as reminders to himself that life is short, that death is near, that virtue is urgent. And Epictetus, a man born in chains, didn't teach freedom as an idea. He lived it, because even with broken legs and no wealth, his mind was his own. Scene. Narrator walking slowly through a quiet forest trail. It is play. Scene. So ask yourself, right now, what chains still hold you? What fears still rule you? What desires still make you restless? And more importantly, what would happen if you finally let them go? Would you discover that peace was never far away? That it wasn't hidden in success or praise or possessions, but quietly waiting inside you all along? Scene. Subtle montage. People journaling, comforting others, sitting in silence, looking out at dawn. The Stoic path is not about suppressing emotion. It's about understanding it. Not about rejecting the world, but learning to live in harmony with it. It's about recognizing that calm is not the absence of storms. It's the strength to stand still in the middle of one. Because one day, the people you love will leave. The body you depend on will weaken. Fortune will turn her face away. But if you have built strength within, if you have cultivated virtue, nothing real can be taken from you. That's what it means to be free. Not to own everything, but to be owned by nothing. Scene. Narrator's tone deepens, slightly more emotional. So as we close this journey, I want you to remember three things. First, your mind is your greatest power. No matter what happens around you, you always have the ability to choose your response. That's not just psychology, that's sovereignty. Second, pain is not your enemy. It is your teacher. It refines you, humbles you, and reveals your strength. Every time life breaks you, it's giving you a chance to rebuild better. And third, virtue is the only thing that lasts. Not fame, not money, not the approval of others, just your character. That is your legacy. That is what eternity remembers. Scene. Quiet pause, then the sound of a pen writing on paper. When Marcus Aurelius faced his darkest nights, he didn't pray for miracles. He wrote these words to himself. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Simple. Direct. Timeless. And that's what this journey has been about. To stop talking about philosophy and start living it. To stop waiting for peace and start creating it. To stop blaming the world and start mastering yourself. Scene. Narrator stands before sunrise, the light slowly touching his face. Now, the lessons are yours, but knowledge is nothing without action. So I challenge you, begin today. When you wake up tomorrow, pause before checking your phone. Take one breath of awareness. Say to yourself, I have power over my mind, not outside events. When anger rises, stop. Ask, is this within my control? If not, release it. If yes, act with calm strength. When something beautiful happens, don't rush past it. Pause. Be grateful, because every moment is borrowed time. Scene. Music swells softly, a mix of piano and strings. Like, scene. And when life hurts, because it will, remember this. You've trained for this. You've prepared for this. You've walked the Stoic path. And every challenge is no longer punishment. It's practice. You're no longer chasing peace. You are peace. You're no longer waiting for life to change. You've changed yourself. Scene. The narrator looks directly into the camera. Final words slow and grounded. So, as you go forward, carry this phrase in your heart. Live with virtue. Write it. Whisper it. Live it. Because when you live with virtue, no matter what happens, you have already won. You've mastered the only kingdom that ever mattered, the kingdom within. And when your final day comes, you'll look back, not with regret, but with quiet pride, knowing that you met life on your own terms, with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. That is the Stoic way, and it's waiting for you.